I was just trying to eat my 7-Eleven hot dog in peace when a couple started fighting on the sidewalk next to me. The guy would yell something, and I'd echo him. The girl would fire back, and I'd parrot her too. I would just try to offer emotional support to both sides. Really escalate the conflict. To the casual observer, it probably sounded like a full-on gang war. Just when I'd had my fill of the drama and was about to bounce, the woman spun around and grabbed me. She yanked me by the collar of my jacket, and I got a whiff of her perfume, warm and expensive. And where do you think you're going? Start a fire and then just walk away. I looked back into her icy glare, swallowed hard, and said, "This is all a big misunderstanding. You believe me, right?" She leaned in and pressed her lips against mine hard. When she pulled back, her eyes were glinting with amusement. "I'm going to say this is a misunderstanding, too. You believe me, right?" After a long shift at my part-time gig, I stopped at the corner store to treat myself to a hot dog. A little reward for a hard night's work. With only $50 left in my bank account, I was pinching every penny, trying to make it a payday. I was squatting on the curb, savoring the last bite, when a Porsche screeched to a halt beside me. A stunning woman stormed out of the passenger seat and started walking away. A moment later, a handsome guy jumped out of the driver's side and ran after her. He grabbed her arm, his voice tight with anger. "How long are you going to be mad?" I said I was sorry. She wrenched her arm free and took a few steps back, her eyes cold. "I don't need your apology. And you think saying sorry just erases what you did? I'm practically begging here. What more do you want from me?" "Oh, so this is your idea of sincere apology." Watching them go at it, I polished off the last of my hot dog. The drama was grade A, but what if I got caught in the crossfire? The bystander is often the one who gets hurt the worst. With that thought, I turned to leave. "Hey you, wait up." My heart skipped a beat. "Who, me? Couldn't be. I'm not just some guy. I'm a handsome dude." I kept walking. "Hey, the handsome dude. Hold on." "Okay, fine. Not handsome, I'm gorgeous." I kept walking. "Hey, gorgeous. Stop." "You're damn right I am." I turned around, feigning innocence. "Yeah? What's up?" The guy from the argument looked at me, exasperated. "Dude, settle this for us. Who do you think is right here?" Oh, great. This was a trap. Two gods having a marital spat, and they wanted to drag a mere mortal into it. I glanced at the guy and started to say, with a knowing smile, "Obviously she's..." A wave of Arctic frost hit me from the side. The woman was staring at me, her gaze promising a slow and painful death. "I'd think very carefully about your answer, sir." The words died in my throat. "That's a threat. I don't accept it." The guy protested, looking at me. "Dude, don't be scared of her. I've got your back." "You really want to have my back? Then you shouldn't have called me over in the first place." I looked at the woman. She shot the guy a look of pure contempt. "This is your only move, isn't it? You can't handle things yourself, so you have to drag strangers into it." His face flushed a deep red. "You always have to be so vicious with your words. Even for someone as close as me, that hurts." He shot me a look, jutting his chin out. What was that? Was I supposed to be his hype man now? Then I saw his lips move, forming a silent word. Being the genius that I am, I instantly understood. 1,000. Rich people. Unbelievable. I looked at the two of them, ready to tear each other apart. To get back to my bed as soon as possible, I decided to unleash my secret weapon. It had nothing to do with the $1,000. I'm not that kind of person. I just couldn't bear to see a couple in turmoil. I took a deep breath, looked at the woman, and chimed in, "Yeah, totally. When you say hurtful things like that, even the people closest to you are going to get hurt." The woman's eyes narrowed at me, a silent promise of violence. "I'm just telling it like it is. It's not like you didn't know who I was when we started this. You're just tired of it now." After she spoke, she glanced at me again. The look clearly said, "Your turn." What? I had to participate? I nervously looked back at her. Her gaze was frigid. 2,000. Wait, did I just hear something? Okay, fine. Let's do this. I braced myself and turned to the guy. "Yeah, man. It's not like you didn't know what you were getting into. So you're just now deciding you hate it? Sounds pretty fake to me." He looked at me, stunned, as if to say, "Dude, you switched sides fast. And why are your insults so much better than mine?" But he kept the momentum going. "That's because I've been patient. Because of our relationship, I don't run my mouth like you do." He looked at me again. "Well, I was getting paid. Might as well do the job right." I turned back to the woman. "That's right. He puts up with you because he cares. If you keep this up, he's going to walk." Her brow furrowed. Did I ask you to put up with me? You could have just said what you were thinking. She looked at me, her eyes demanding a response. I plastered on a serious expression and turned to the guy. Yeah, dude, why make yourself miserable? If you got a problem, spit out. Nobody's a mind reader. He stared for a second, then finally shouted, You know damn well why I don't say anything. You have a temper like a lit fuse. The second I say something, you explode, and the whole world has to know about it. He shot me a look. I cleared my throat and faced the woman. Yeah, you really should work on that temper. If you can't have a calm conversation, you'll never solve anything. She raised an eyebrow and sneered. That's just an excuse. Have you even tried? The only reason I get so mad is because everything you say is pointless nonsense. Damn, she was sharp. I turned to the guy. Yeah, man, how do you know it won't work if you don't even try? Giving up before you start is no way to live. He was practically shaking with rage, his jaw clenched. Everything I say is nonsense. You got a lot of nerve. Those were reasonable requests. Okay, my turn again. Yeah, totally. People see things differently, you know? You always think what he's saying is nonsense, but have you ever tried to see it from his perspective? A little empathy, maybe? The girl shot me a death glare. Dude, he's your boyfriend, not me. I quickly looked away. Oh, you've got quite the mouth on you, don't you? She muttered, though I couldn't be sure who she was talking to. Not me, that's for sure. La la la. I can't hear you. You think I don't understand you? The girl challenged. I nodded in agreement. The guy launched his counterattack. I backed him up. Back and forth, back and forth. The momentum was building. My insults got more and more heated. It was like getting drunk, but instead of booze, I was getting high on yelling at people. And I couldn't be blamed. It was just too much fun. Getting paid to tear into these two like they were my kids. You get hooked, too. After the main event, the woman stood with her arms crossed, staring daggers at her boyfriend. No wonder you were driving some girl around town tonight. If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I never would have known. Oh my God, he cheated. I looked nervously at the guy. His face went pale, and he started to tremble. You saw wrong. He looked at me, desperate for me to back him up. Dude, you don't need me. You're vibrating at the same frequency as my dad's old lawnmower. But hey, a job's a job. I turned to the woman and pulled out the big guns. It's a mistake every guy makes. Can't you just forgive him this one time? The words hung in the air, followed by a profound, deafening silence. Both of them just stared, completely frozen. I felt a surge of pride. Yep, that's right. Witness the power of the dumbest, most cliché excuse in the book. I decided to press my advantage with a rapid-fire follow-up. It was a misunderstanding. It's not what you think. He just likes the atmosphere. His friends made him go. It was just a friendly drink. He doesn't even talk to other girls. If you're going to think the worst, there's nothing he can do. He didn't even say a word to her. What more do you want? The vibe was just right. He got caught up in a moment. It's not like he actually went home with her. And besides, let's just put the fact aside for a second. Even if he was a little bit wrong, aren't you also a little bit to blame? My barrage of classic non-apologies left them speechless. The guy finally snapped out of it and looked at me, his eyes glazed over. Dude, are you serious? Of course I was serious. Look, you're both quiet now, aren't you? My original plan was to make them both so mad at me that they'd unite against a common enemy, but that seemed like it could lead to actual physical harm. I tried it once before and I was still sore. I walked up to the guy, holding out my phone with a cheerful smile. All right, boss. Venmo or PayPal. His mouth twitched. He glanced at the woman, then pulled out his phone. Cha-ching! A Venmo notification. $1,000. Sweet. My mood instantly improved. I treat myself to an extra-large pizza tonight. I turned and walked over to the woman, my voice full of enthusiasm. All right, boss, your turn. Feeling lucky? Venmo or PayPal? I held out my phone, only to be met by a gaze so cold it could freeze hell over. My hand froze in midair, and then I realized, oh crap, in my victory lap, I'd completely forgotten she was also my client. This was awkward. I swallowed hard, looking at her cautiously. So, how about a 50% discount for you, boss? We'll call it an even 1,000. She didn't say a word. She just snatched my hand, scanned my phone's QR code, and ding, a Zelle notification, $2,000. Hearing that sound, I decided that bosses were truly the most generous people on earth. My own manager, that cheapskate, Could learn a thing or two from her. You're a legend, boss. I pocketed my phone, took a few steps back until I was a safe distance away from both of them, and then finally relaxed. Well, I wish you both the best of luck and a lifetime of happiness. I chirped, and please, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. With that, I turned and sprinted away. I was terrified they'd reconsider and demand a refund. I mean, I'd run my mouth off, but that was hard work. I ran faster than I ever had in my life. I could have broken a world record for the 50-meter dash. After a solid minute of effort, I ducked into an alley where I felt safe. I looked at the new balance on my phone and grinned like an idiot. Time for a feast. Can I come with you? Sure, no problem, I treat. Tonight, Wait a second. That voice was way too familiar. I turned around stiffly. Leaning against a lamppost, arms crossed and smiling at me, was the woman from the fight. Yo, she said. I froze, then scratched my head and immediately turned to walk in the other direction. Ha, I think I left the stove on. Gotta run. I'll give you a ride. She fell in a step beside me, gesturing to the Porsche parked at the curb. I glanced at it. Wow, nice car. Ha, no thanks. My place is just around the corner. You should go make up with your boyfriend. Communication is key, you know. I kept walking, picking up the pace. I was seriously panicking. Was she having second thoughts? I should have made them write voluntary gift in the memo line. A rookie mistake. I power walked away, my arms pumping like a malfunctioning robot. Can I come to your place for a glass of water? I'm really thirsty. She was relentless. I knew what this was. She wasn't going to let me go. The moment I let her into my apartment, she'd pretend I'd attacked her, and her boyfriend would burst in. They'd blackmail me. Either go to the cops or pay up. It would be my word against theirs. A simple accusation and my life would be ruined. This is why you never bring a stranger home. You take them to the police station. This isn't some sappy romance movie. What do you want from me, boss? Just spit it out, I said, turning to face her with a serious frown. She tilted her chin up and smiled. Why are you so nervous? She didn't look angry anymore. In fact, she seemed to be in a much better mood. I think I'm reasonably attractive, right? Are you really that scared of me? Take a closer look. She twirled a lock of hair around her finger, her voice a low purr. I took a subtle step back. Boss, you're obviously a goddess among mortals. Way out of the league of a normal guy like me. She smiled and stepped closer, her eyes glinting with a strange light. That's not what you were saying a few minutes ago. Started a fire, and now you're just going to walk away? I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. I swallowed hard. I told you it was a misunderstanding. You believe me, right? What do you think? Her eyes, clever and fox-like, were locked on mine. All right, you win. Just tell me what you want. I decided to be bold. What's the worst she could do? She glanced at me, then gestured to the car. Get in. You'll find out. I had no idea what she was planning. I glanced at the car. The guy wasn't there. He had to go. An emergency. It was like she could read my mind. She walked over to the driver's side, slid in, and looked at me through the open window, a challenge in her eyes. You scared? Oh, that did it. Actually, yeah, I was terrified. For all I knew, she was planning to sell my kidneys on the black market. A cool, mysterious woman would never pick up a guy on the street. A cautionary tale. A guy's got to look out for himself, too. I turned to run, but in the next second, the car screeched to a halt right in front of me, blocking my path. Holy crap. She was for real. A few moments later, I sat in the passenger seat, taking in the car's plush interior and the faint, clean scent that filled the air. Okay, you can tell me now. She glanced at me, then turned her focus back to the road. Her tone was casual. You guys said I don't understand other people, right? That my temper is impossible for anyone to deal with. That was the other guy. I had nothing to do with it. The words tumbled out of my mouth. She let out a cold laugh. Is that so? Well, I'm going to show him. I'm going to prove that even with my terrible temper, somebody will put up with me. She turned to face me, her eyes locked on mine. Be my boyfriend. Huh. My heart started hammering against my ribs. I was completely flustered. You, yes or no? Her eyes narrowed, and for a second, I thought she was going to explode. My heart pounded even faster. I finally yelled, watch the road. I grabbed the steering wheel and jerked it back on course. Screech. The car came to a screeching halt. I looked at the median we'd almost plowed into and wiped a bead of sweat from my forehead. Lady, next time we have a serious conversation, can you please keep your eyes on the road? That was way too close. I almost died in a tragic romance novel-style accident. I hadn't even had a chance to spend my $3,000 yet. I hadn't even eaten that pizza. She seemed a little dazed, too. Clearly, it had been a close call for her as well. I let out a long sigh and reached for my seatbelt. I'm not interested. I pulled the door handle, but it was locked. Who are you calling, lady? That's what you're focused on. I was speechless. I wiped more sweat from my face. Open the door. Let me out. I tugged on the handle again. Nothing. Boss you. It would have been fine even if you hadn't grabbed the wheel. My car has driver assist. I took a deep breath and looked at her. Driver assist isn't magic, okay? You still have to pay attention to the road. Your safety is your own responsibility. She turned away, looking a little embarrassed. I just got my license. I'm not very good yet. What? Thinking about how fast she'd been driving earlier, my stomach dropped. You were driving like you were trying to take off. Was it that bad? She asked a little defensively. Was it that bad? I pointed her dash cam. Go watch the footage. The only thing you were missing was a pair of wings. My tirade was met with sudden silence. I realized what I'd been saying. It was a matter of life and death, so I kind of lost my cool. Sorry, I started to say, but I was cut off by a small voice from her side of the car. I'm sorry, she said, and she sounded genuinely apologetic. Well, all right, no harm done. I patted the car door. Forget it. Nothing happened. Don't worry about it. Just take me home now. I changed my mind. If I got out now, it would be a long bus ride back. That meant more money and more time wasted. Okay, she said softly, and the car started moving again. This time a lot slower. Right, good, stay alert. Don't tailgate. Perfect, just like that. Half a turn of the wheel. Before I knew it, I was back in full-on instructor mode. Eyes on the road, eyes on the road. You're drifting out of your lane. Don't jerk the wheel, don't jerk it. You see that pedestrian up there? Don't brake, just hit him. Ow. I clutched my head and groaned. The woman next to me was getting tense again. She pulled the car over to the side of the road. What's wrong? I asked. She was silent for a moment, then unbuckled her seatbelt. Since you know so much, you drive. Me? Yeah, you. You guys are always saying I can't see things from your perspective. Well, now's my chance to learn from an expert. She got out of the car, walked around to the passenger side, and tapped on the window, gesturing for me to get out. She stood there, looking completely relaxed while I was sweating bullets. Knock, knock, knock. I looked out and saw her jut her chin, urging me to hurry up. I slowly rolled down the window, my eyes darting everywhere but at her. You know, actually, I think you're a great driver. Very steady, and you follow all the traffic laws. Hearing this, she narrowed her eyes and leaned in closer. A slow smile spread across her face. Mister, you don't know how to drive, do you? Damn it. How is she so perceptive? Well, you see, I just failed my road test for the third time. Okay, I admit it. I got cocky. I deserve this. When she heard my confession, she could barely contain her grin. She sauntered back to the driver's side and got in. Then she took her license out of the glove compartment and admired it for a full minute and 37 seconds. And no, I wasn't timing her because I was mad. Absolutely not. Buckle up. We're off, she announced, and the car shot forward like a wild horse. Watching the city lights streak by the open window, the wind in my hair, I actually started to feel pretty relaxed. She was a fast learner. Her driving was already much smoother. Want some water? She asked, holding out a bottle. I was thirsty, so I thanked her and took a sip. Huh, it was sweet. I looked at the bottle, then took a few more gulps. This water is really good. She smiled. Then have some more. There are a few more bottles in here. You can take some with you when you leave. Really? I couldn't. It's fine. Someone gave them to me. They're nothing special. I took another sip. Well, thanks. Don't mention it. I leaned back against the seat, watching the scenery blur past my window. The city at night was a river of red and green lights, streaking past my eyes until they all blended together. I don't know if it was from all the overtime I've been working lately, but my eyelids felt heavier and heavier. When I woke up, the car had stopped. I looked out at the unfamiliar scenery, my mind still fuzzy. Are we here? From the driver's seat, the woman gave a soft amachum. Still half asleep, I opened the door and stumbled out. But after a few steps, the cold night air hit me, and I realized something was wrong. Where? Where the hell was I? I'd never seen this place before in my life. The woman was already walking away. I hurried to catch up. Hey, where are we? This isn't my neighborhood. She kept walking, her voice flat. I never said it was. But when I asked you just now and what you said in the car, she turned to look at me and smiled. First of all, you never told me your address. Second, when I said we were home, I wasn't lying. We're my home. Your home. Yep. She kept walking. You were sleeping like a log. I couldn't wake you up, so I had no choice but to bring you here. I jogged to keep up, and you just trusted me like that? What if I was some kind of creep? She glanced over her shoulder, gave me a quick up and down, and then burst out laughing, a sly smile on her face as she continued on her way. I was pretty sure I'd just been insulted. Just my luck, getting played by the cool girl. While I was standing there, stunned, she turned back around and looked at me. Are you coming or not? Just a friendly heads up, it's a long way back to your place from here. But if you want to go, I'm not stopping you. Be my guest. With that, she turned and disappeared into the building. I checked the directions on my phone. The two locations were on opposite sides of the city. I put my phone away. It was too expensive. The bus would take forever, and an Uber would cost a fortune. My hard-earned cash was too precious to waste. And who turns down a free place to stay? Only an idiot. I ran to catch up. Hey, boss. Wait up. I stepped inside and was blown away. The apartment was immaculate, decorated in a minimalist, cool-tone style that was both clean and comfortable. Make yourself at home. I'm going to go change, she said, and then disappeared into a bedroom. Watching her go, I couldn't help but think how trusting she was. If I were actually a bad guy, she'd be in serious trouble. But then again, maybe her confidence was a front. Maybe this was an elaborate trap. The moment I made a move, a bunch of guys in ski masks would burst out a closet, and I wouldn't be leaving without paying them a few $100,000. My eyes scanned the apartment. Bedroom, bathroom, kitchen, living room. Nothing seemed out of place. Still, I should probably get out of here. Something fell off. I stood up and tiptoed toward the door. Click. The door opened, and a cool breeze washed over me. I felt a wave of relief. And where are you going? A voice came from behind me. I turned to see her standing there, now wearing a lacy, white silk nightgown. I just think, a man and a woman, alone, it's not really appropriate. I should probably go. I was about to step out the door. You're a student, right? It's after 11. Are you even going to be able to get back into your dorm? I paused, turning back to her. How did you know I was a student? Did I tell you? She chuckled, then grabbed 2 glasses and a bottle of red wine from the kitchen. She poured herself a glass, sat down on the sofa, and crossed one leg over the other, revealing a smooth, pale calf. That look of clueless innocence. Who else could it be but a student? She took a small sip, a playful smile on her face. And more importantly, this building has excellent security. If you try to leave now, they'll see an unfamiliar face and probably call the cops on you. But you could vouch for me, right? You could just tell them. And why would I do that? We parked near the building. I gave you a suggestion. I didn't force you to follow me. I was speechless. She had me. I was too naive. I looked at her, my voice firm. Just tell me what you want. I'll do anything, as long as it's not being your boyfriend. I'm not into being the other guy. She smiled and set down her glass. I'm not that desperate, and I don't have any requests. Just stay here for the night. Consider it my good deed for the day. She swirled the wine in her glass. Have a drink with me? I looked at the bottle, and finally I sat down. Back in my day, they called me the man who could drink 1,000 cups and never fall. She poured a glass for me. I took it and had a small sip. Good stuff. Thump. The last thing I remember before losing consciousness was a wave of pure regret. My kidneys. We've had a good run. It seems tonight is the night we part ways. The morning sun streamed in. I opened my eyes and saw a strange ceiling. Where is this place? I mumbled, clutching my head as I looked around the room. I didn't recognize a thing. Had I lost my memory? Had I been transported to another world in my sleep? Okay, just kidding. My brain was still booting up. As the events of last night came flooding back, I quickly did a full-body check. Other than feeling sore all over, weak in my limbs, and completely drained, there was no permanent damage. Phew! I let out a long sigh of relief. I slowly got out of bed. The moment I opened the door, the smell of breakfast hit me. I saw her sitting at the dining table, looking radiant and happily eating. Morning, she chirped, then pointed to the food on the table. Want some? I was about to refuse, but my stomach betrayed me with a loud growl. I'd eaten last night, So why was I so weak and hungry today? Okay, thanks. She had put me up for the night and was offering me food. A thank you was the least I could do. After washing up, I sat down and dug in without hesitation. Honestly, it was delicious. I don't know if it was because I was starving or if the food she bought was just that good. Yet the Malasia feed. The whole time, she just watched me, trying to stifle a laugh. I think she was mocking me. Laugh all you want, lady. While you're laughing, I'm eating all your food. When I was done, I took the initiative to clear the table. After all, I'd eaten her food and stayed in her home. The least I could do was be helpful. Knock, knock. Someone was at the door. She was about to get up. I practically leaped to my feet. I'll get it, boss. I'll get it. I walked to the door and swung it open. And then I was face to face with him. At that moment, I realized I'd made a huge mistake. Clara, the man at the door exclaimed, his face a mask of shock as he looked from me to the woman who had appeared behind me. You're really going this far? Clara glanced at him casually, her voice lazy. What's the matter? Didn't you say no one could ever love a person with a temper like mine? Well, I'm here to tell you you're wrong. She suddenly walked over and looped her arm through mine, beaming. This is my boyfriend. Isn't that right, honey? She squeezed my arm tighter, as if to provoke him, the soft press of her body against my arm unmistakable. I needed to explain. The guy looked like he was about to explode. Hey man, listen, you've got to let me X. Ow. A sharp pain shot through my arm. I looked down to see Clara smiling at me, a threatening glint in her eyes, while her fingers dug into my bicep. 1,000, she whispered in my ear. Say no more. Boyfriend? I'll be your son if you want. You're serious? The man stammered, pointing a trembling finger at me. Clara just laughed. The next thing I knew, I felt a soft, wet sensation on my cheek, gone as quickly as it came. Wait, lady, what are you doing? That was my first kiss on the cheek. That's got to be worth extra. Clara looked at him triumphantly. So, is that convincing enough for you? The man looked like he was about to have an aneurysm. He took a deep, ragged breath and then threw his hands up in defeat. Fine, you win. I hope you two are very happy together. He turned on his heel and stormed off. Slam. Clara shut the door. The second it was closed, her hand dropped from my arm, and she walked back toward her bedroom. All right, get your stuff. I'll take you to campus. Her expression was neutral, as if nothing had happened. I stood there for a moment, stunned, and touched the spot on my cheek where she'd kissed me. Then, I brought my fingers to my nose and sniffed the faint residue. Huh, saliva doesn't have a smell? I dropped my hand, planning to go wash my face, but when I turned, I saw Clara staring at me from her bedroom doorway, her jaw on the floor. I seem to have walked in at a bad time. You do your thing. She spun around and bolted back into her room, leaving me standing there alone. Wait, let me explain. Make excuses. Clara's driving skills had improved dramatically. How did she get so good overnight? As we drove, I considered asking her for some driving tips so I could finally pass my road test. But as the campus came into view, I decided against it. It was better not to get too involved with her. I had a feeling things could get complicated. We're here. Get out, Clara said, stopping the car and tilting her chin. Thanks, boss. I unbuckled my seatbelt, ready to leave. Just call me Clara, she said as I opened the door. Calling me boss is weird. I understood perfectly. I turned back to her and called out, Thanks, Boss Clara. A sharp glare shot my way, but I was already out of the car and had slammed the door. See you later, Boss Clara. We were parting ways here. She couldn't find me on campus. What was there to be afraid of? It's not like she could just follow me. My eyes went wide. What's the matter? So surprised to see me. Clara was standing right in front of me, a smile on her face. I took a few steps back. Boss, you don't have to walk me in. You can head back now. I turned to leave, but her voice followed me like a shadow. Oh, let's go together. I looked at her, confused. She stretched lazily, then looked at me with a sudden realization. Did I not tell you? I go to this school too. Boyfriend. What a coincidence. Haha, boss, you're hilarious. Me, a boyfriend? No way. I walked away quickly. Well, I won't keep you. See ya. Don't forget to pick me up for lunch, boyfriend. I stopped in my tracks and turned to look at her, bewildered. What do you mean? Clara strolled over to me, a playful smile on her face. What do I mean? Aren't we boyfriend and girlfriend? I frowned. I thought it was just an act for a little while. Clara wagged a finger at me. You should check the payment you just received. Payment? I pulled out my phone and looked. Clara had sent me the money for playing her boyfriend earlier. The memo. 1 week boyfriend. I had only just noticed the note. I was so happy about the money that I hadn't paid attention. That extra zero was just so distracting. I love counting zeros. What's wrong, boyfriend? Thinking of backing out. Well, just send the money back. What are you talking about? I puffed out my chest. It's just a week. I could do a month. A month it is then, Clara said flatly. She suddenly pulled a folded contract and an ink pad out of her purse, grabbed my hand, pressed my thumb onto the paper, handed me a copy, and then walked away. I stared at the 1-month boyfriend agreement in my hand, my mouth hanging open. I was joking. How could she take that seriously? And seriously, who just carries a contract and an ink pad around with them? The morning classes flew by, but my mind was stuck on what had happened earlier. As I sat there, my head in my hands, a voice called out from the classroom doorway. Leo, your girlfriend's here for you. The voice was loud, and everyone who was about to leave stopped in their tracks. All eyes were on me. A mix of envy, jealousy, approval, and affection. It was a lot to take in. What the hell? Girlfriend? I looked past the staring faces and saw a stunningly beautiful girl waving at me from the doorway. My jaw dropped. I was speechless. Why was she here? Seeing that I wasn't moving, she walked right over to me. Her beautiful face filled my vision, and I could smell a faint, pleasant scent. I made a mental note to ask her what kind of shampoo she used. What are you doing here? I asked. Clara pouted and pointed to my phone on the desk. I picked it up and saw a screen full of missed notifications. Crap. I put on silent. Listen. I'm listening, she said, her eyes fixed on me. I hung my head. Okay, my bad. I texted you what room I was in, but you never replied. I knew you hadn't seen it. I nodded. I messed up. I forgot to ask her which class she was in. Wait, a thought struck me. Hey, I don't think I ever told you which class I was in, did I? Clara froze for a second, then waved a dismissive hand. I just asked around. With that, she turned and walked away. I scrambled to follow her. Am I that famous? Anyone you asked just knew. Maybe I just got lucky and asked someone who knew you. Really? I was skeptical. Clara turned to me, her eyes sharp. Why are you so focused on the details? You should be thinking about what you want for lunch. That was a good point. A very difficult question. Ignoring the stares around us, we walked out of the classroom side by side. The weather was perfect, except for the guy standing in front of us. It was the guy from the other day. He was staring at Clara's hand on my arm, though the way she was holding on, it looked more like a mother clinging to a child she was afraid of losing. You're really doing this? You can still back out. We can start over, he said, reaching for our hands. Clara sidestepped him easily. She frowned at him. Leo is my boyfriend now. Please show some respect. Without giving him another glance, she steered me around him and continued on. As we passed, he deliberately bumped his shoulder into mine. But I stood firm, and he was the one who stumbled. He shot me a vicious glare. Glare all you want, buddy. You got a problem with your eyes? But looking at him, I had a feeling this wasn't over. I turned my gaze back to Clara. She was frowning too, lost in thought. What was going on? Had I become a pawn in their game? This was clearly a case of unresolved feelings. But whatever. A job was a job. As long as they paid me, they could call me to cheer them on while they made up. Money is hard to earn. Someone's got to do the dirty work. We ended up at a restaurant off campus. The food arrived, and I took a few bites. It was good. Clara, on the other hand, wasn't having any. She was frowning at her phone, frantically typing, probably texting her boyfriend. After a few minutes, she looked up at me, stood up abruptly, and said, I pulled a wadded-up tissue from my pocket and handed it to her. Here, this is all I have. If it's not enough for, there should be toilet paper by the cashier. My words made Clara's face darken instantly. I have to go. Something came up. She grabbed her phone and practically ran out of the restaurant, as if her life depended on it. Probably something to do with that guy. Not my problem. I calmly pulled her untouched plate over to my side of the table and started inhaling it. After that day, Clara was constantly finding me, either in person or by blowing up my phone. We had lunch together, dinner together. In the morning, she'd be waiting outside my dorm, or I'd be waiting outside hers. It got to the point where everyone on campus thought we were a couple. It was all to piss off that guy, I figured. But did she really need to go this far? This girl was just so stubborn. The problems of the rich were beyond my comprehension. But again, not my problem. I just had to be her boyfriend for 1 month. Time flew by. Clara and I lived like a real couple. But my list of grievances against her was growing longer by the day. Have you ever had someone drag you out of your dorm and force you to move into their off-campus apartment? I thought I'd be getting a free private room, but instead, I was sleeping on the floor. And not just on the floor in her bedroom. Her excuse? She was worried I'd steal something, so she needed to keep an eye on me. Like I was that kind of person. Okay, she was right to be suspicious. And that's not even the worst of it. The woman looked like a model, but she lived like a slob. Every day, she'd come home and leave a trail of clothes and underwear everywhere. The sofa, the chairs, the bed, all covered. Sometimes, I'd be at the dining table, working on a report on my laptop, and a small piece of fabric, still warm, would come flying out of nowhere and land on my screen. I mean, who does that? As someone with mild OCD, I couldn't stand it. So a war began. She'd make a mess, and I'd clean it up. She'd make another mess, and I'd clean that up too. I'd tidy up in the morning, and by evening, it would be a disaster zone again. I started to suspect she was doing it on purpose. Why else would she always happen to be in the shower right when I got home, having conveniently forgotten to bring a towel or clothes with her? She'd just yell for me to bring them to the bathroom door. I was at my wit's end, but the month was almost over. Soon I'd be free. Freedom was so close. The days ticked by. One afternoon, after class, my friend Dave pulled me aside. He kept glancing nervously at the classroom door, as if he were on the lookout for someone. "What's up?" I asked. Dave pulled me over to the window. "You're gonna go meet your girlfriend now, right?" he whispered. I didn't bother correcting him. I was playing a part, after all. "Yeah, why?" I checked my phone. "She should be here any minute." Dave looked uneasy. He hesitated for a moment before saying, "Look, man, I think I saw your girlfriend with another guy." They looked pretty close. She had her arm around his neck. He looked at me cautiously, then sighed. "Maybe I'm wrong, but you should talk to her. Just stay calm, you know? Don't want to do something you'll regret." I already knew all this, of course. Clara and the other guy were the real couple. I was just a prop in their fight. Dave didn't know the real story. Yeah, I know. I'll talk to her. Thanks for the heads up." I gave him a small smile, and he smiled back. "All right, well, His eyes fixed on something behind me. "Leo, I'm here to get you," a soft voice said from behind me. Dave glanced at her, then clapped me on the shoulder. "I'll see you later, man." "Yeah." After Dave left, Clara came over and linked her arm through mine, leaning against me intimately. "Just go with it. Make it look convincing," she whispered. The classroom was still full of students. I knew she was putting on a show for them, all to get back at the other guy. I nodded and led her out of the room. A chorus of whistles and catcalls followed us. We had become the campus's #1 source of romantic drama. In their eyes, we were the perfect lovey-dovey couple. "So what should we do today?" Clara asked. She let go of my arm, but then took my hand, lacing her fingers through mine. "Make it look real." I squeezed her hand, meeting the gazes of the curious onlookers, especially the ex-boyfriend who was standing in the crowd, watching us with a pained expression. But as I looked closer, I saw something else in his eyes, a flicker of pleasure? Relief? Damn it. Was I really just a part of their kinky game? Was the ex a masochist who got off on seeing his girlfriend with another guy? And Clara was just playing along? It was possible. Lately, whenever we went out, I'd catch a glimpse of him lurking in the background. I started looking around. Were they filming this? Were they going to go home and watch the tapes later? That was seriously twisted. As I was lost in thought, Clara squeezed my hand. "What are you thinking about?" I snapped out of it and shook my head. "Nothing." She gave me a skeptical look, then her voice turned sweet. "Let's go see a movie. There's a new one out that looks really good." "Sound good." She pulled me along by the hand. My eyes darted to the ex-boyfriend, who was heading in the same direction as us. Of course he was. When we got to our seats in the theater, I spotted him in a corner, watching us. I glanced at Clara. She was staring intently at the screen, and I couldn't tell if she'd noticed him. "Feed me," she said, her eyes still glued to the movie, her mouth open in my direction. I looked at her cherry-red lips and popped a piece of popcorn into her mouth. This woman was a master manipulator. She knew I was a sucker for money, and she was using that $10,000 to make me do whatever she wanted. At first, she was at least a little reserved. But lately, she'd completely let go constantly threatening me with having to pay her back. She made me give her lap pillows, rub her shoulders, massage her legs. I was basically her servant. And the lap pillow thing? She never let me have a turn. The shoulder rubs? She'd always be wearing some low-cut V-neck shirt. It was like she was trying to test my self-control. And the leg massages? She'd kick and squirm the whole time, and more than once, she'd stuck her foot in my mouth. Did she have any concept of hygiene? I mean, her feet were small and pretty, but you don't just stick them in someone's mouth. Money is hard to earn, but for some reason, I was okay with this. I fed her one piece of popcorn after another until the bucket was almost empty. Then she leaned in, her warm breath tickling my ear. I'm going to the restroom. She ducked out of the row and disappeared. I sat there, finishing off the last of the popcorn. I'd seen the text on her phone a moment before. Meet me outside. The ex-boyfriend had sent it, and then she'd gotten up. Now he was gone, too. On the screen, the main characters were breaking up. They were walking down the cherry blossom path where they first met. Same weather, same place. But instead of smiling at each other, they were walking in opposite directions, their faces etched with exhaustion. That's life, I thought with a profound sigh. The movie ended, and Clara still hadn't come back. I carried the empty popcorn bucket and soda cups out into the lobby. And there she was, standing in the middle of the hall. The ex-boyfriend was holding a bouquet of flowers out to her, and she was smiling brightly. She waved him away with a laugh, but it wasn't a dismissive laugh. It was the kind of laugh you share with family. I ducked behind a pillar and waited for them to part ways. A good fake boyfriend knows when to make himself scarce. After they separated, I waited a moment before stepping out from behind the pillar. I put on my most surprised expression and called out, "There you are." Clara jumped, then smiled apologetically. Sorry, my stomach was bothering me. I immediately grabbed her hand and started pulling her toward the exit. What's wrong? She asked, letting me lead her without any resistance. We're going to the hospital, I said, playing the part of the concerned boyfriend perfectly. See? You're getting your money's worth. Clara stopped, her eyes looking misty. She seemed genuinely touched. Perfect. Mission accomplished. I mentally gave myself a high five. No, I'm fine, she said with a laugh. Then she held up the flowers she was holding. Ta-da, aren't they pretty? She looked at me expectantly, her smile brighter than the flowers themselves. Beautiful, I gushed. She was pleased and pushed the bouquet into my arms. There for you. I blinked, then put on a shy, reluctant expression. I couldn't. Why not? You're my boyfriend. What's wrong with giving you flowers? She said, pouting. She was a completely different person from the woman I'd met on the street. You'd think she was an actress. I took the flowers, a huge grin on my face. This woman was a genius. She'd re-gifted me flowers someone else had given her. She hadn't spent a dime, but that was fine with me. I could sell these for a good chunk of change. I was so smart. Well, thank you, my dear girlfriend, I said, beaming at her. Clara looked away. As long as you like them. She grabbed my hand, and we walked on, blending in with the other couples around us. For a moment, it felt like we really were one of them. I woke up to a familiar pressure on my chest. I knew without opening my eyes that she had rolled off the bed again. Now I understood why she made me sleep on the floor. I was her human crash pad. I shoved her off. She curled up on the floor, twitching and giggling in her sleep, lost in some pleasant dream. I got up and checked the time. It was after 8. Only 3 more days until my 1-month contract was up. A wave of exhilaration washed over me. In 3 days, I would be a free man. I got up, and with practiced ease, I started making breakfast. I grated potatoes and mixed them with flour and chopped bacon, then cracked an egg in the middle of each patty to make potato and egg pancakes. I sliced chicken and mushrooms, and in a pot of nearly cooked oatmeal, I added the chicken, mushrooms, some ginger, and a sprinkle of green onions for a perfect savory porridge. I tossed a salad and poured a glass of warm milk. Everything was ready. I wiped a non-existent bead of sweat from my brow and smiled at my handiwork. Just then, I heard a clatter from the bedroom, and Clara stumbled out, her clothes in disarray, yawning as she shuffled into the bathroom. This woman was impossibly lazy. I was starting to think I was getting underpaid for this gig. We sat at the table, eating breakfast. Honestly, I would have preferred a bagel and a coffee, or even just a bowl of cereal. But Clara was footing the bill for all this fancy food, so I guess I could eat healthy for a little while longer. Clara emerged from the bathroom, her silk pajamas hanging loosely off her shoulders. She had completely given up on appearances. "Mornin'," she mumbled. I glanced at her. "Morning. Eat up. Didn't you say you wanted to get an early start today?" She scratched her head. "Oh yeah, I guess I did." We ate in a comfortable silence. Today, Clara wanted to go clothes shopping. We went to the nearby mall and wandered around. How does this one look?" Clara twirled in front of me, wearing a cinched waist, sky blue dress. The skirt billowed around her. She looked ethereal. "Yeah, looks good," I said honestly. She leaned in close. "Hee, can't take your eyes off me, can you?" "No, you're imagining things," I said, turning away. She just laughed, then grabbed a pink blouse and a long white skirt and disappeared back into the dressing room. For the next hour, I was treated to a private fashion show. She tried on one outfit after another, and I had to admit they all looked great on her. The downside was that I became her personal shopping bag holder. I waited outside as she went to change back in her own clothes. A moment later, I heard a rustling from inside. "Leo, can you come in here for a second?" I glanced at the curtain, hesitant, but she called for me again, so I looked around to make sure no one was watching and slipped inside. "What's wrong?" The sight that greeted me made my jaw drop. Clara was standing there in her bra, the dress half off, looking flustered. The zipper stuck. "Can you help me?" "Oh, sure." I walked over, fiddled with the zipper for a second, and then pulled it up, covering her bra. The whole process took about 5 seconds. "Okay, I'm gonna go now," I said, turning to leave. But she grabbed my arm. Her face was flushed as she looked at me. "Didn't you feel anything? A surge of emotion? Any excitement at all?" I was confused. Why would I be excited? She gestured to herself. "This is the body of a girl your age. Aren't you even a little curious?" "Not really." My casual reply seemed to anger her. She yanked open the curtain and stormed out. "Hey, what's wrong?" I hurried after her. She was already several paces ahead. "I'm buying you some clothes to—" "You don't have to. This shirt is fine. I'm paying. You're the best boss." For lunch, we went to a new spicy fish place. Clara was sweating and tearing up from the heat. "What's next?" she asked, sitting on a bench outside a flower shop, clutching a bouquet she had guilt-tripped me into buying for her. Let's see." I looked around, and my eyes lit up. I pointed to a store across the street. "How about that?" It was a paint-your-own pottery studio. Clara's eyes lit up, too. She jumped up and dragged me over. 30 minutes later, Clara was staring at the lopsided monstrosity she'd created on the pottery wheel, a look of despair on her face. Then she turned and saw the nearly perfect vase I was shaping and lunged for me. "Ha, what are you doing? Stop tickling me." Her fingers dug into my sides, and my hands flew everywhere, turning my perfect vase into a lopsided mess of its own. "There, now we're even," she declared, taking a picture of our two failed creations. I sighed. As long as the boss was happy. We ended up making a matching set of mugs, which Clara insisted had to be identical. This time, we were more successful. They were at least recognizable as mugs. We painted them, one with a little girl and one with a little boy. When you put them together, the girl was running into the boy's arms. I looked at the mugs, then at Clara, who was concentrating intently on her painting. She noticed me looking and smiled. "What's wrong? Are you so moved you're falling in love with me? Don't do it." I was silent for a moment, then decided to be honest. Your painting is a little abstract. Maybe I should." My suggestion earned me a 3-piece combo of her fingernails digging into my arm. The finished mugs had to be fired in a kiln, and the shop owner told us to come back in 2 weeks. "So where to now?" "It's still early," Clara said, her hands behind her back as she looked up at the bright sky. I looked around, trying to think of something. "Clara, fancy seeing you here." A cocky voice cut in. A handsome but flashy-looking guy walked up to us, completely ignoring me and focusing on Clara. "You out having fun? I know this great. Can you get out of my way?" "And your voice is really annoying," Clara said bluntly. She grabbed my arm. "My boyfriend and I are about to go check into a hotel. Goodbye." She tried to pull me away, but the guy blocked our path. "Wait, this guy? How is he good enough for you?" Listening to him, I felt like I was in a movie. The dialogue was so cliché. He reached out, trying to grab Clara. But as her fake boyfriend, I had to do my job. "Arg!" he screamed, his face contorting in pain. I held on for a few seconds before letting go. He crumpled to the ground, clutching his arm. I looked at Clara. "Let's go." She nodded, and we started to walk away. You son of a bitch. You think you can mess with me? The guy scrambled to his feet, grabbed a stool from a nearby storefront, and charged at me. I was ready. My leg was itching for a fight. I was pretty sure I could take this guy out with one kick. Get lost. Suddenly, another figure rushed in and tackled the guy. It was the ex-boyfriend. He followed us here, too. You bastard. You dare to hit on her? He yelled, wrestling the guy away from us. I was about to step in and help, but Clara grabbed my arm and shook her head. Let's go. I could see that her brother had the upper hand. The other guy was no match for him. Okay, Clara and I walked away, but I could feel her attention was still on the fight behind us. If you're so worried, why are you leaving? These people were so confusing. We were about to cross the street. Clara seemed distracted, lost in her own world. I was just about to suggest we go back and check on her brother when I noticed the light had been green for a while. Clara, not paying attention, had already stepped into the crosswalk. Vroom! A car came barreling through the red light, not slowing down at all. Damn it. This cliché plot. I lunged forward, trying to pull her back, but I knew I wouldn't make it in time. There was only one thing to do. I looked at Clara, who was still frozen in shock, and ran toward her. This was going to cost me. Big time. I shoved her forward, out of the car's path. The last thing I saw was the world spinning, and Clara's face streaked with tears as she ran toward me. I'm so sorry. We did everything we could. In the hospital, the doctor stood outside the emergency room, looking at the girl with pity. The girl collapsed to the floor, her cries echoing through the hallway. She was filled with regret. Why had she done it? Why hadn't she told him how she really felt? The moment she lost him, she was consumed by a tidal wave of grief, her heart aching as if a piece of it had been torn away. The doctors looked at her, sighed, and walked away, leaving her alone with her sorrow. The end. The screen went black. I told you it was a bad ending, but you insisted on watching it, I said, looking at the TV in my hospital room, then at Clara, who was happily munching on a piece of watermelon. She had wanted to see the end of the movie we'd started. And shouldn't the patient be the one eating the watermelon? Clara looked at me with a mischievous smile. You want some? Yeah. She picked up a piece of watermelon with a small fork and held it out to me. I opened my mouth, but the watermelon never arrived. Instead, she popped it into her own mouth, a defiant look on her face. This is for being a stupid, reckless idiot. If that car hadn't been going so slow, you wouldn't be here cracking jokes right now. So no, you don't get any. She turned her head away in a huff. Come on, I tried to sit up and winced in pain. Clara immediately turned back, her face filled with panic. What's wrong? Are you okay? I'll get the doctor. Don't scare me. She was on the verge of tears. I grabbed her hand. I'm fine. I'll feel better if I have some watermelon. She looked at me, her panic slowly subsiding. She forked another piece of watermelon and held it out. And then, she bit off half of it and leaned in, her lips moving slowly toward mine. Whoa, what are you doing? Are you serious? Don't think I'm scared of you. My protests were useless. She closed her eyes and kept coming. I squeezed my eyes shut. What the hell? I leaned in and bit down. Our lips met, the sweet taste of watermelon between them. In that instant, our eyes flew open. I could feel her warm breath on my face. Her ears were bright red, and her eyes were shining. I like you, she whispered. Will you be my real boyfriend? I blinked. Aren't I already? She shook her head vigorously. I want the real thing. The kind you can marry and have kids with and grow old with. I was silent. Tears welled up in her eyes. You're gonna have to pay extra for that, I said with a grin. The tears spilled over, and she threw her arms around me, hugging me tight. Okay, I'll support you for the rest of your life, and the next life, and the one after that. I gently patted her back. All right, then in the next life, and the one after that, you have to come find me and trick me again. Her body stiffened. Just then, the hospital room door opened, and a middle-aged couple rushed in. Leo. They came straight to my bed. I gently patted Clara, and she reluctantly let go, looking at the newcomers. Mom, Dad, Lumen sighed. You too. What if you had missed each other because of this silly misunderstanding? He looked at me. Leo, do you remember us? I smiled and sat up. Mr. Sutton, Mrs. Sutton, of course I do. Clara looked at me, completely shocked. The couple looked at me apologetically. Oh, it's been so many years. You've suffered so much because of Clara. If it weren't for you, she'd be the one in this bed." They turned and yelled toward the door. "Ethan, get in here." A familiar figure peeked his head in and then slowly walked into the room. He gave me a sheepish smile. "Leo, hey. Long time no see." It was the ex-boyfriend. I smiled back. "Yeah, long time no see, Ethan. We talked for a long time." Mr. and Mrs. Sutton were warm and friendly. And finally, they left with Ethan, saying they wanted to give Clara and me some time alone. The room fell silent. Clara stood by the bed like a child who had been caught doing something wrong. "Sit down," I said, patting the bed beside me. She nervously sat down. Another silence. "Leo, when did you know?" I smiled and leaned back against the pillows, my hands behind my head. When Ethan challenged me at the arcade. He's a terrible actor." I laughed. Ethan had pretended to be angry with me at the arcade, said a few lines, and then ran off. It was so fake. Besides, that was the arcade we always used to go to. That's when I started to get suspicious. I went home and looked at some old photos, and then I saw the photo of us on your phone's lock screen. That's when I knew for sure. I spoke softly. "I'm sorry it took me so long to recognize you. You guys knew who I was all along, didn't you?" No, it's okay. We were only 9 when we last saw each other. It's been so many years. It's totally normal that you didn't recognize us," Clara said, her eyes shining. "And it took us a while to be sure it was you, too." I listened as she told me the rest of the story. After she recognized me, she had tried to talk to me, but I was so busy with school that I hadn't even noticed her. She got mad and came up with a plan with her brother to stage a fight and have me play her fake boyfriend. The time she ran out of the restaurant, it was because she thought her brother had gone too far and she wanted to yell at him for my sake. The flowers at the movie theater were Ethan's idea, and the fight at the pottery place was his idea, too. A chance for me to be a hero. These people. But as we spent more time together, she started to fall for me for real. She wanted to tell me the truth, but she was afraid I'd be angry that she tricked me. So she kept putting it off. The car accident made her realize that some things can't wait. She was going to tell me everything, but it turned out I already knew. "I never, ever want to be apart from you again," she said, throwing herself in my arms and holding on tight, as if she were afraid I'd disappear. Ow, you're choking me." "I don't care. I'm never letting go." I made a full recovery. The driver who hit me was punished. Clara and I were closer than ever. She was constantly hugging and kissing me, no matter where we were. And I finally got promoted from the floor to the bed. But Clara got even lazier, clinging to me in the morning and refusing to let me get up. And when I brought her a towel in the bathroom, she just pulled me into the shower with her. A few years later, we graduated with our master's degrees and got married. A year after that, we had twins. They were adorable. At their 1-month celebration, Ethan sat on the sofa, a drink in his hand, complaining to me. "Leo, man, you have it rough. My sister's temper. You're the only one who can handle her." He slung an arm around my shoulder. "I tried to warn you when we were faking it, but you wouldn't leave. Now look at you." He took a sip of his drink. "That day we had the fight, I just ate one of her pudding cups, and she completely lost it. I even apologized. Oh, right? You yelled at her for me." He trailed off, his smile freezing on his face. Sis, let me explain." He grabbed his slipper and bolted out of the room. Clara chased him for a few steps, then gave up and jumped into my arms. "Honey," she cooed. I patted her back and looked at Ethan, who was cowering by the dining table. I couldn't help but laugh. My wife was amazing.